Marcus Torregrosa, Yemaso, multiple-time IBJJF champ, great competitor, team leader of Team Yemaso. And guess what? The Crusher is going to give you an inside peek into what makes him tick and what some of his thoughts and beliefs are. Sit back and enjoy. So Marcos, you're a decorated competitor, multiple IBJJF titles. Tell us about your lineage and your training.
I started originally as a blue belt, as a white belt training with Raven Seaman, who was a brown belt under Cassie Warnick at the time. And I was out in California, Sacramento, California. And I was training with him for about a year until Cassie came around and he came to the seminar. And then I went out to Brazil with Cassie. I was with him for a while, fought, and then he moved back here to the States. That was about 2003. And then we were together the whole time. He gave me my black belt. That was back in 2007. So I got all my training out there on the West Coast, and I started jiu-jitsu out there with the team. I stuck with him the whole time. I eventually moved off to TLI, over to TLI for a little bit, for a couple of years, and now I'm going solo, riding solo.
So was Cassio the main influence on your game? Who else influenced your game coming up, like blue belt, purple belt, brown belt?
Man, I consider myself a huge student of sport. I love watching footage. I love fights. I love catching different rhythms off of people, people that you don't know. I used to watch back in the old days on the mat footage of Dengue Fever and all these crazy tapes, right? These VHSs. Now everybody's got DVDs, right? They got Blu-rays.
YouTube.
Man, I didn't have any of that, man. All we had was like these rogue tapes that came from on the mat, and I got to see like the old school worlds, and I was eating that stuff up, eating it alive. And one of the biggest influences at that time for me, again, was like Teddy. It was before Teddy got really big, before he exploded. I remember seeing some old half guard footage of him with Shaolin a long time ago. That kind of developed my half guard a little bit, and I started really paying attention to him. And he was one of my biggest influences coming up. Aside from obviously from Castle, who showed me some stuff there too as well from the open guard. But Teddy was a huge influence for me. I loved watching his footage. Man, he was just so fluid. So it was like when he was on the mats, he was in complete control, mental, physical. He controlled the mat, and the pace and the rhythm, and that was something I really tried to emulate.
Yeah, so funny you mentioned Shaolin too, and they had a rivalry, Teddy and Shaolin a little bit, and then you recently fought Shaolin. And talk to me about some of the toughest guys you competed against throughout the years. You got many titles. I've seen you fight many times, but who were the toughest guys you competed against?
Man, I've had really good fights. I've been very fortunate to fight some of the best of my time. And of previous times, look, I just fought Shaolin right now. That was a really good fight. But I feel that some of my best wars, like actual wars on the mats, were actually around my purple belt years. I fought Teodoro Prata, who was Andre Gaval's very first black belt. Him and I met in the finals of Pan Am 2004, and that was just an absolute war. And then I went to Brazil that summer, and I faced him again, and we had a war. So we were 1-1 at that time. We had just, battles. I loved rolling with that guy. And it's those battles where you come off the mats and you barely made it out alive. It doesn't matter what round it was. It doesn't matter if it was a final or the first round. You barely made it out alive. And that's like one of the ones that marked me the most. I loved rolling with that guy. It was a great experience. One thing's rolling with somebody in the academy. Another thing's rolling with somebody in the gym. I go hard in the academy now. I roll hard with everybody. For instance, I just fought with Rafael Rosendo at the Pan Ams. And him and I got to train with each other now at Marcelo Garcia's place, and we had fantastic rolls. So we were going balls to the wall. We had a great time. So that was another really cool training experience to have too. New York City and Marcelo Garcia's place is really cool, man. It's really sick to be out here.
Yeah, what was it like? I was following you online, and you were there, and you looked really happy traiing with some good guys.
Yeah,
talk to me a little bit what that's like.
Man, it was a similar dynamic to that of like Royler Gracie for me, because I always looked up to Marcelo Garcia. His style and mine they're not very similar in that. I like a lot of spider guard stuff, and he's not really attuned to that. But he has a lot of guillotine stuff, so he has some little nuances that I picked up as well. Little just grip changes, small little things. But for me, the most impressive part about being in this environment is meeting someone personally. It's off the mats. Who are they, right? They can project material to you very well. Obviously, he's a fantastic competitor. I found out that he's an incredible instructor too. He was able to get ideas across very nice. But man, for me, like really what gives me that soul food is to be able to sit down, talk with them, eat with them, and get to know who they are, man. He was telling me stories of guys that he fought like 11 times. And like he was giving me like a bunch of stories of him coming up. And this is the type of thing I really relish, you know. It was the same dynamic that I had with Torregrosa. Man, it's really cool to have somebody that you idolize, that you look up to in the sport, and then sit down and chill with them and maybe talk over coffee or food or whatever, and really feel like that passion, you know, not just a passion for jiu-jitsu, but a passion for life, which I guess they're one and the same, right?
Right.
And to be able to experiment that and see that firsthand, man, it's really uplifting, you know.
That's
for
cool.
me as an individual, as a coach, instructor, it's kind of like a life coach. You know? Jiu-jitsu is kind of, you know, changing people's paths in life. So I'm very happy to see that type of influence they had. Not only people around them, but also verify it for myself. These guys are cool guys.
Yeah, it's interesting. You talk about what Marcelo and the impact he just had on you, and talk about Casio, the impact. Talk to us about the Yemaso team and what you believe in, what you're building it on, and what you're doing out there, because you guys are getting great results.
Oh man, we are putting in lots of work. It's very rare to have a large percentage of your student base active in the competitive scene. I think that a lot of these guys are gravitating to that because they see me compete, right? They see me compete, they're like, man, they get hyped up, they want to see medals and
compete all the time.
Oh yeah, I compete all the time. I'm doing work, so
and you win all the time.
I'm competing. You know, I'm very thankful that I'm healthy to be able to continue producing. You know, like I don't pretend to be any better than anybody else. I just work really hard, you know, and the results are showing. But I work out with all my guys, man. I mean, like on occasion, I'll go to training camp, Calteros training camp. I was able to participate in that for Pan Am, but really, man, I train with my guys 95% of the time. So, man, all these guys, like, I have Elliot Kelly as a new black belt. Man, this guy is a monster. He just hasn't been able to compete in IBJJF events because of my paperwork. I'm doing my second degree paperwork with him. And, man, he's going to fight this weekend at the American Cup, so I'm really hyped to see him, like, get out there. He went to Abu Dhabi Trials, beat Tellez in the first round. He had a really good fight with the current Pan Am champion in the final, Roberto, and man, he had a great showing. I'm really hyped up to see him out there. So he's a great role. I have great guys in the morning, a lot of the upper belts, you know. And they're refocused, they're dedicated, you know. They feed off my enthusiasm and they correspond.
Okay.
And that's really important, you know. You have that synergy going, you know. So I'm in a competitive environment. I have a good, I'd say 15-20% of my students are competitors. They like to compete. And when I go to these events, they're just following suit. They're like, come on, let's go. You're the general. You tell me where we're going. What are we doing this weekend? What tournament are we taking this weekend? So I'm here in New York. I'm going to do the New York Open tomorrow. I have a whole group of guys that's at the American Cup, and they're doing this weekend. And I have another group of guys that's doing Vegas next weekend.
That's awesome.
So, man, the guys, it gives me goosebumps. And the guys are going out there putting in work, man. I'm really happy with
That's awesome.
being in that environment.
Man, you know, so since we're talking about your team, recently a lot of things have happened that have made people in the jiu-jitsu community ask the question, what do you feel like your responsibility is as a professor, as an instructor, is to the community around you and to your students? Why don't you speak to that and your beliefs there?
Man, this is a really difficult topic. I mean, for myself personally, because it's really hard for me to separate personal life and the life of an instructor. I understand there's certain pretenses that you have to maintain on the mats. You have to be professional, and you have to teach in a certain fashion. You have to project, but and I have a very systematic approach. I'm very methodical in the way I teach stuff. So that stuff is not the problem. The problem for me is a lot of people say, hey, don't mix business with pleasure. And look, my son is on the mats. Their children are on the mats, and you know, I spend more time with these guys training than I do with my own family. And does that not make it my family? Does that not make you guys my family? I mean, I talk to you guys all the time on Facebook, stuff like that. I talk to you guys more than my own brother. So, you know, I mean, I go out to their birthday parties and we share all these life experiences together. So, man, I mean, you know, how do I define this? This is very difficult because you know, there's a saying in Spanish that says no one's a prophet in his own town. Why? Because no one's going to take you seriously. Right? No one's going to take you seriously. They're all going to think, oh, you know, come on, he's just BSing. You know, like, come on, I know this guy since he was a little guy. Right? Come on, he's jumping my fences. And it's true, man. So when they see that personal side of me, sometimes that line gets a little blurred.
Right.
Sometimes that line gets a little blurred. And I've had to talk to a number of my students. Just recently, I had to talk to another one about that. Like, hey, I understand. Look, we're friends, man. You can come stay at my house. You can come on something. You could stay. My heart is open to you as an individual, as a person, because you're my friend. But on the mats, it's a different dynamic.
Right.
And I try to maintain as much professionalism in that dynamic as possible. So I've tried really hard to create and to cultivate and to maintain. And that professionalism cannot subside for friends or anybody else. So it's a really difficult, like I said, it's a really difficult tug and pull, a really difficult dynamic. And I'm still trying to figure that out myself. But what is the job of an instructor, ultimately? Is to provide an example for those that are looking for a better lifestyle. In the simplest term, right? People look at me and they say, what can I get out of Marcos? What can I get out of Marcos? Because I don't demand titles or anything like that. I tell the guy, I say, call me Marcos. What can I get out of Marcos? And I can provide a better training environment, a healthy environment where we can have our families together and provide each other with the type of emotional support that needs to happen for us to grow, all of us together. Nutritional value, speaking about nutrition, things like that. This is really clutch for me. You got to eat well. I mean, I like my cookies. I like my sweets. Like anybody else, man, I like to break diet, but I also believe in grinding, working hard, and pushing forward on my diet and achieving goals, right? And this is one of the biggest things you can show as an instructor is how to achieve a goal, whether it be on the mats, in a tournament, in life, getting a job, or whatever. It's setting your mind to something and achieving that goal, and that's what I try to help people with. I'm human just like anybody else, and I slip up. But if I can help you achieve a goal, whether or not it's on the mats or off the mats, I'm hoping to really get that across to all my students that you guys are watching. I hope you guys hear this. I'm trying to get that across to you guys, and I'm trying to get it across to everybody around me. Look, I'm not a perfect guy. I fall on the street just like everybody else. I bleed. I have black eyes. Right? So I hurt and bleed just like anybody else, but I want to help people achieve goals. It's a great, powerful thing for me too. When it's reciprocated and that type of enthusiasm is corresponding to that. I love feeling that. Being instructor, feeling that. So
and I see that even just corresponding with you at the tournaments, corresponding with you online, like you talked about, seeing all kinds of things, whatever we're talking about. And we'll switch topics a little bit. All right. You talked about instructors that have inspired you, that you enjoy being around. What about fighters of today, in today's competitive environment? Who do you like watching, or whose game do you like or respect?
Man, I was given the opportunity to train recently with Leandro Lowe at Calterra's gym. Man, I tried to pick up as much as I could from him. I love watching him pass.
His passing is awesome.
His passing, he's such a boss at passing. And man, I try to emulate a little bit of games like this. This comes back to what I was telling you guys before about watching footage. I'm watching a lot of footage, so I'm always studying his game, and I'm always trying to pick up some stuff from the Mendes. And I really like watching the Mendes because they're really tight and compressed. But then you have on the other end of the spectrum a guy that's almost loose and reckless like Leo Lowe. And I think I have a kind of a pattern that mixes both. That meticulous, very tight angle of the leg dragging and hip riding that comes with the Mendes, and also a little bit more that reckless shooting around of Leo Lowe. So I love watching those two groups, those dynamics play out. His guard is also, man, his guard is boss.
I hope you enjoyed part 1 of my interview with Yemaso. Come back for part 2 because there's lots more to come.